When Sandra and I entered our 7th year together, a close male friend suddenly appeared in her life. They talked about everything and got along effortlessly. Every night, Sandra would make 2 handmade desserts, one for me and one she took to him. Still, nothing between them ever crossed the line. Until one day, that man asked her, "If I had met you first, would you have married me?" Sandra didn't answer. Instead, she shattered the vase I had gifted her. Today, Sandra had been distracted all day long. She seemed like she wanted to say something several times but kept holding back. In the end, I spoke first. "Did something happen?" Sandra hesitated, frowning slightly. Then she said cautiously, "Lily's husband is out of town for work. She's alone at home and feeling scared. She wants me to stay with her. But your arm is seriously injured. I'm worried about leaving you by yourself. I should tell her to find another friend." Her tone was sincere, part worry, part care. As she talked, I kept watching her. Her eyes were clear, honest, meeting mine without avoiding them. After a few seconds, she softly asked, "What's wrong?" I shook my head. "Nothing." "You can go," she asked. "And you'll be okay alone?" "I'll ask my mom to come and look after me. A few days ago, I had a car accident and broke my arm." Sandra had been terrified. She cried outside the operating room, and afterward she took care of me night and day, never wanting to leave my side. At night, when the pain kept me awake, she stayed up with me, crying quietly, resting her cheek against my unharmed hand and wiping sweat from my forehead. Seeing all this, I worried she'd exhaust herself or get sick, so I'd try to tell her to rest. She'd always pout and say, "How can I sleep when you're like this? What if something happens and I don't notice? I'd have nightmares. Your hand is for designing houses. If anything happens, I'd regret it for life." During the day, even if she had to work, she always waited for my mom to arrive, going over the details again and again to make sure I'd be taken care of. My mom would laugh and say, "This is my own son. How could I neglect him?" But today, Sandra hesitated only for 2 seconds before nodding. "Take care of yourself. I'll be back soon. If anything happens, call me first. Don't make me worry." She left in a hurry, taking just one change of clothes. I didn't move. When she looked back, I forced a smile and waved. After the door closed, I remained still for a long time, but my tense back finally relaxed. Sandra was acting strange. From beginning to end, everything felt off. But I didn't ask her anything, because I already knew where she was going and who she was going to meet. At first, I didn't know the man's name, only that his surname was Ito, and Sandra called him Manager Ito. I first saw him a year ago. I was waiting for Sandra at a new cafe below her company. I didn't tell her. I planned to surprise her at lunchtime. But she suddenly walked in. The lazy receptionist suddenly sat up straight. Sandra gave him a bright smile. He smiled back. It was a silent, mutual understanding. And honestly, that kind of unspoken understanding between a man and woman is dangerous. It makes both believe they're meant for each other. But back then, I brushed off the strange feeling. Sandra saw me and was surprised. She asked why I was there. "I'm waiting to have lunch with you," I replied. "Why didn't you call me?" "I didn't want to interrupt your work. Why did you come down?" She pouted. "Work was annoying, so I came for a walk and some coffee. Their cookies are really good. You should try them." She waved her hand. "Manager Ito, another plate of cookies." Facing his puzzled look, she introduced me with a smile. "My husband." Both of them were calm. Ito greeted me politely and even waived our bill. Sandra said the coffee was authentic, and after that her company started ordering their afternoon tea from this cafe. That's how they became familiar. Back then, I thought they were just a shopkeeper and a customer. I didn't know those cookies weren't even sold at the cafe. I didn't know Ito messaged her at late night asking, "If I had met you first, would you have married me?" That night at 10 p.m., Sandra messaged me saying she had just eaten hot pot with Lily and was going to sleep. She said she was exhausted and wouldn't video call. She told me to take care of myself. I replied, "Don't worry, I'm fine." Then I asked the cafe server, "Where's Manager Ito? Why isn't he here today?" The young girl smiled, not thinking much. "He left earlier. Today is our boss's birthday. He must be out on a romantic date with his girlfriend. He was carrying a big bouquet of roses." I nodded, took my coffee, and left. The city is huge. Finding two people is hard. But Sandra had bought me a smartwatch last year, a health monitor with precise tracking. Before she left today, I secretly slipped it into her handbag. She had bought it because she was worried about my health, not to track me. I had once fainted from overwork and it scared her badly. She wanted to monitor me in real time. I appreciated her concern, but now, that same watch showed she had been on the 12th floor of a hotel for 3 hours. I didn't rush. My arm hurt, so I took a painkiller and a melatonin. I laid on the soft bed with white noise playing, but I still couldn't sleep, just like that night a month ago. That was the first time I checked Sandra's phone. She had been extremely disturbed that day. She cut her hand peeling an apple for me, spilled a glass of water, and then suddenly broke down, sweeping everything off the table. Even the anniversary vase I had customized for her shattered. She had calmed down afterward, regretted breaking the vase, but said nothing. She just cleaned quietly. Later that night, I woke up and she wasn't beside me. The dim living room light was on. Sandra had drunk several glasses of wine. She lay slumped on the sofa, her face soaked with tears, hair hanging loosely. My heart felt heavy. With a feeling like dying, I unlocked her phone. The chat with Ito was open. His message from the afternoon stared back at me. "If I had met you first, would you have married me?" Sandra hadn't replied. Not a single word. But that night, my heart stopped inside her phone. I arrived at the hotel at 6 a.m. with my ID. I placed my things on the front desk. "My wife Sandra is here. Tell me which room she booked. If you refuse, I will call the police." I had no energy to argue. I was exhausted, both physically and mentally. The receptionist looked stunned, then hesitant, then pitying. She said, "I'll check right away." She gave me the room number and even asked if I needed help. I shook my head and went upstairs. Sandra didn't make me wait long. Within 40 minutes, the door opened. Makoto stood there, looking defeated. Behind him, a slender hand rested on his arm. Then a voice said, "Makoto, thank you, but I'm sorry. We can't do this." "Thank you? Sorry?" It all sounded like some code between them. Makoto looked heartbroken. "Makoto, Alex." The air froze. Sandra's hand, the one resting on Makoto's arm, withdrew instantly, like she'd touched something hot. But she still didn't come out from behind him. "Are you not leaving?" I asked. "Alex?" Sandra's face was pale, her voice trembling. So was I. My hand behind my back was shaking. I thought I was mentally prepared, but when the moment came, I could barely stand. "Where's the car?" I asked weakly. "In the underground parking." "Let's go." My arm, still in a sling, hit the wall. The sharp pain made me gasp. "Alex!" Sandra rushed toward me. "Don't touch me," I snapped. She bowed her head, refusing to back away. I raised my hand to push her away. But suddenly Makoto stepped forward, pulling Sandra behind him. "What are you trying to do?" he demanded. I laughed coldly. "Do what? Hit her? Is that what you think?" He stood tall like some righteous protector. "I won't let you touch her." I nodded. "Fine. Keep her. Just remind her to divorce me first."
Sandra shook off Makoto's hand and shouted, "Alex, let's go home." Makoto, hurt, said, "I'm only trying to help you." Sandra stepped back. "Makoto, I have nothing to do with you. I don't need your help." She didn't even look at him again. Her eyes were only on me as she spoke. "Alex, let's go home." "Alex, I can explain. Yesterday was Makoto's birthday. He doesn't have any friends here, so he wanted me to keep him company. I just spent his birthday with him. Nothing happened between us. It was wrong of me to lie to you, and I apologize. I was just afraid you'd be angry and overthink things. I was wrong. If you mind, I won't see him again. He's just a friend. Alex, please don't ignore me. Say something, okay? Don't scare me." Since we got home, Sandra has said a lot. Explanations, apologies, self-reproach. I wanted to speak, but it felt like my throat was stuffed with cotton. I couldn't say a single word. I didn't know where to start or what to say. Finally, I said, one word at a time, "Sandra, let's get a divorce." My words made Sandra tremble violently. She clenched the hem of her clothes and closed her eyes tightly. When she opened them again, she seemed to be suppressing overwhelming emotions. She said, "Nothing happened between us. We just drank and chatted. Alex, don't be like this, okay? I know you're angry. I was wrong. I shouldn't have gone out with him. But you have to believe me. I didn't do anything to betray you." "What does it mean to betray me?" I said calmly. "You probably hugged, right? Maybe even kissed. You smell like smoke. And here," I pointed at her lips, "a bite mark." She froze, her lips tightening. I looked at her with sadness. "How far does it have to go? Caught in bed? You were in the same room all night. How can you expect me to believe you? Sandra, how can I trust you?" Sandra's head dropped in defeat. She closed her eyes, her eyelashes trembling, her voice choked, as she said, "Alex, I was wrong. I don't know what happened to me. I lost my mind, but I swear, nothing more happened between us. I beg you, for the sake of our years together, give me another chance. Besides, I'm pregnant. We're about to have a baby." She took my hand and placed it on her stomach. I froze. Slowly, I looked down at her stomach. Confusion. A moment of confusion. Then I suddenly pulled my hand back. "What did you say?" "I'm pregnant. When did you find out?" Sandra fell silent, her hand clenching into a bloodless fist. I gripped my teeth, feeling like a trapped animal. My voice was hoarse and trembling when I asked, "You knew and didn't tell me? You knew and you still spent the night with Makoto? Sandra, what are you thinking? You don't want this baby, do you? Because of Makoto, right? You bitch! How dare you? How dare you use this baby as a bargaining chip now? Divorce. Sandra, don't say another word." This year marks the 7th year of Sandra and I being together. People said, "Aren't you guys in the 7-year itch?" I laughed. "We've only been married for 3 years." They said, "But you've been together 7 years. Maybe it's time to have a baby." But the truth is, we never used contraception from the beginning. For a while, Sandra was anxious. She couldn't understand why she wasn't getting pregnant. After hospital tests, the results showed our chances of having children were low. My data was all normal. The problem was with her. To protect her from feeling hurt, whenever someone asked why we didn't have a child, I would say, "I'm not done with just the 2 of us yet. No one can take Sandra from me." We both wanted a child. I used to imagine that if one day we found out Sandra was pregnant, we would be overjoyed. But she didn't tell me. She got pregnant, had a checkup, and still didn't tell me. I didn't have to think deeply to understand. She hesitated whether to keep the baby. Why? Because of Makoto. Another man's presence made her uncertain about having a child with me. How ridiculous, how pathetic. Strong emotions surged through me, wave after wave, until I vomited. I clung to the toilet, kneeling on the floor. It felt like my organs were twisting. Sandra pounded on the door, begging me to open it, pleading with me not to joke about my health. And I sat there, disarranged, feeling like the most failed man in the world. I wanted to end everything with dignity, but my dignity had been trampled the moment Sandra began to waver. That night, I slept in the guest room. Maybe I was too tired. I fell asleep quickly. Early the next morning, before I woke up, Sandra had prepared a full breakfast. When I came out, she stood up with a forced smile. She probably didn't sleep well. She looked terrible, her lips pale. In the past, I would have felt heartbroken, but now my heart felt like dead water. "Alex, eat something," I said expressionlessly. "Sandra, let's talk." She stood still for a long time, then finally nodded. "Okay. Where should I start?" I said. "I gave you a chance. I even imagined things might not have to go that far." Sandra looked stunned, confused. I sneered. "That day, Makoto asked you if you'd married him if you'd met him first. Because of that one sentence, you broke down, cried hysterically. When you passed out drunk on the sofa that night, I already checked your phone. I always believed checking a partner's phone was wrong. Once you do that, distance has already formed. If there's no trust, why stay together? But even with that belief, I still ended up doing it." My words made Sandra freeze. She leaned back slightly, trying to escape. She clutched her clothes, her voice weak and pleading, but I didn't reply to him. I rubbed my sore eyes. Yes, you didn't reply, but not replying is also an answer. Silence filled the room again.
Sandra tried several times to speak. Finally, she said, "If you saw those messages, then you should know I never crossed any line with him before. I just saw him as a friend. The night before last, I drank too much and lost control emotionally, but it stopped there. It didn't go further. Alex, I really didn't betray you." I didn't look at her. I just sighed. On April 3rd, we planned to go to the movies. I was looking forward to it. But you suddenly said you had to work overtime because your boss insisted. But actually, Makoto asked you to go singing. Every night you made 2 desserts, one for me, one for him. The only exception was February 14th, when you took matcha chocolates. 13 pieces. The elevator in your building needs an internal card. Makoto complained he had to wait too long each time he brought you food. So you asked your boss for an extra card pretending it was for me, but you gave it to him. On your birthday, after I fell asleep, you went downstairs at midnight and Makoto gave you a bracelet. He asked if he was the first to wish you a happy birthday, and you said yes. Your tacit understanding, he says go, you say go. You mention a penthouse, he replies 1. You say you're sleepy, he says he's sending coffee. When you changed cars, you took him for a test drive. Someone mistook you two as a couple, and you sent him a shy emoji. Every day after work, you chatted with him for 27 minutes. How long has it been since we talked that much in a day, except when we first got married? The Sandra who chats with Makoto is a stranger to me. No, she's the Sandra from university. Lively, talkative, childish. But the person on the other side isn't me anymore. The feeling of ants crawling under my skin almost consumed me. Sandra's head sank lower and lower. I just saw him as a confidant. When I was down, I wanted someone to talk to. We were just chatting. Alex, what will it take for you to believe me? A deep powerlessness dragged me down. Sandra, how far does it have to go to be cheating? Your closeness, your understanding, it's like a guillotine hanging over my head. Is it cheating when the blade falls or when it's already hanging above me? The bullet was already in the chamber before the trigger was pulled. I had fantasies. I love Sandra. 7 years together. I remember everything she did for me. How could she betray me for someone like him? But when I lay down that night, I knew some things can't be ignored. After seeing all that, how could I trust you again? When you leave my sight and behave strangely, I know you're going to see him. At that moment, I knew our relationship was already buried. Until Sandra agreed to see Makoto one last time, drink with him one last time. He said, "Maybe this way I can let him go, Sandra. Please pity me." Sandra replied, "Okay." At that moment, the trigger was pulled. I died and came back. "Sandra, let's get a divorce." Sandra refused. She said she'd do anything except divorce. She said she'd only make desserts for me, have lunch downstairs for my company, come home on time every day, and never step into that cafe again. Watching her busying herself, eager to please me, made me feel sad. This was unnecessary. I never liked after-the-fact compensation. Divorce is hard. I only realized how hard when I wanted one. If one person disagrees, you have to sue. From filing to trial takes at least a month, and without major fault, the first trial won't grant the divorce. I had to wait 6 months before filing again, and even then there was no guarantee it would be approved. The whole process felt torturous, so I decided to move out. "What are you doing? Where are you going?" Sandra shouted behind me, but I ignored her and kept packing my clothes. She completely lost control, throwing my things around. "What more do you want from me? I've already admitted my mistakes, apologized, and promised it won't happen again. Why can't you forgive me? Am I really that unforgivable? Alex, I'm begging you, can't we just go back to how we were?" The shirt in my hand crumpled from how tightly I was gripping it. I threw it to the floor. "Sandra, I'm begging you. Stop making me sick!" She froze, eyes reddening. She stepped back, holding her stomach and gripping the doorframe. "I won't divorce you. I'm pregnant. You can't divorce me." Those were the last words she managed before collapsing. The doctor said she had a threatened miscarriage caused by emotional stress and anxiety. Her parents rushed over and immediately started blaming me. They questioned how I had been treating her, whether I had been stressing her out. I was too drained to argue. Sandra nervously tugged at them. "Dad, Mom, stop." I lifted my head slowly and looked at the three of them. "I want a divorce from Sandra." "What did you just say?" "I said, I want a divorce from Sandra." "You bastard!" her father shouted and swung at me, but I grabbed his arm. Sandra screamed and tried to come between us, but her mother held her back. "You've spoiled him too much. You're pregnant and he still wants a divorce? Does he have another woman?" Sandra froze. I let out a cold laugh. "Sandra, this marriage is over." After that scene, everyone found out I wanted a divorce. My parents didn't understand at first until I told them the truth. Then they went silent. Sandra's parents didn't come after me either. They must have found out what really happened. Only Sandra continued trying. She called me constantly during her hospital stay, but I never answered. She even called my parents. They were firm at first, but when Sandra started crying and talking about the baby, their stance softened. "Maybe just let it go," they told me. "She's pregnant after all." Yes, Sandra is pregnant, and everyone thinks that should instantly erase everything, like it's some kind of get-out-of-jail-free card. But for me, it was the last straw. I loved her deeply. I was genuinely excited about our baby. And what did she do? She stabbed me in the back, so deep it reached the bone. Being betrayed by the person you love most destroys you piece by piece. I hated her. I couldn't trust her anymore. How could I stay in a marriage like that? Was I supposed to wait for it to rot completely before ending it? Sandra stayed in the hospital for 15 days. Makoto visited once. He brought fruit and flowers, claiming he just wanted to check on her. But for the first time, Sandra looked at him with disgust. "Leave. Don't come back." Makoto paused, forced a smile, and said, "What do you mean? You're not answering my calls or messages. What, now we can't even be friends? Does Mr. Wang still misunderstand? I can explain. Makoto, let's stop contacting each other." I wouldn't have known any of this, but Makoto himself came to tell me. His face looked defeated as he smoked. I thought I could win her over. You just appeared a little earlier in her life than I did. But now, I've lost. I give up. She's yours. His self-pity actually made me laugh. Did Sandra send you here? He smirked. Her last request to me, I fulfilled it. A love without regret, huh? I called Sandra. As soon as she picked up, she said, Alex, I can be discharged soon. You'll come pick me up, right? No. Get an abortion. What? She broke down instantly. The baby? Do you hate me so much you want to kill our child? Sandra, I said calmly, if you have this baby, one day they'll ask why their parents divorced. What will you tell them? Yes, I can't divorce her during pregnancy or breastfeeding, but those periods will pass and I will divorce her. Why? She choked. I've apologized. I've begged you in tears. Why isn't it enough? Just one mistake. Do I deserve a life sentence? Is your heart made of stone? Then, for the first time, she hung up on me. I won't abort the baby, and I won't divorce you. Sandra left the hospital and went home, but she didn't contact me. Her mother called instead, first kindly, then angrily. Alex, be a man. She just had a male friend. Nothing actually happened. Must you be so unforgiving? How petty. I was prepared for worse, but then I heard her mother was hospitalized. What happened? I asked a friend. No idea. She fought with Sandra's dad. She's awake now, but crying nonstop, saying she wants to die. I felt relieved she was conscious. My mom asked, Aren't you going to visit? No. Visiting will only give false hope. Funny how people can suddenly mature overnight. At first, I thought Sandra's betrayal would destroy me, but with time, the pain dulled. Reality settled in. My marriage had failed. I didn't intend to visit her mother, but she called me personally. Alex, I just want to talk, please. Her voice was so hoarse and desperate that I hesitated, but eventually I went. In just a few days, she looked completely drained. Sandra, too. She had lost a lot of weight and looked like she could collapse any time. Alex, thank you for coming to see my mom, she whispered. I nodded and went inside. Sandra's father had cheated. He had found true love and wanted a divorce. His new lover was 2 years younger than Sandra. He says he's never felt so connected with anyone. They eat, fish, travel, talk endlessly. He says he feels alive again. Sandra's mother's voice grew shaky. He says he's only ever felt responsibility toward me, that our family held him back. After everything I sacrificed, he says this? He's cheating, but acts like it's noble. She grabbed my hand. Alex, you understand me, right? You know what I'm going through. He's driving me to death. And in that moment, everything became clear. People don't understand pain until it happens to them. She dismissed Sandra's one mistake as nothing and blamed me for being unforgiving. But now that I didn't comfort her or attack her, when she finished, I gently removed her hand. Rest well, I have to go. Alex? As I stepped out, Sandra stood in the hallway, eyes filled with longing. Can we talk? Talk? About what? The divorce. I wasn't interested in discussing, only finalizing it. I have 2 questions, I said. If your dad didn't mention divorce but had a close female friend, would you sympathize with him or your mom? And second, that relationship didn't start recently, so why is he asking for divorce now? I didn't wait for her reply. Her tears were barely holding back as I walked away. Sandra's father was firm. He was ready to leave everything just to divorce. Everyone was shocked. Sandra had always lived a smooth life. Good family, good upbringing, stable job through connections. She had never experienced real hardships. The divorce was the first time her world fell apart. She knew she was wrong, but believed admitting her mistake should have been enough. What's the big deal? She thought. But watching her father's marriage collapse shattered that illusion. She didn't contact me, but she often parked outside my neighborhood for hours. One day she approached me. We sat on a roadside bench. After a long silence, she finally spoke. I thought about your questions. Later, I asked my dad why he wanted a divorce now. He said because my mom's attitude made him think having a close female friend was acceptable, and he thought I would understand him and wouldn't blame him because I did the same. Since that was the case, he assumed none of us would object if he asked for a divorce. As Sandra talked, her hands and voice both trembled. I went to meet that girl, she said, hoping to convince her to leave my dad. But she said, Sandra swallowed hard. That girl told me, don't you have a close male friend too? Didn't you avoid having a baby because of him? The only difference is that you weren't brave enough. In that sense, you should learn from your dad. Sandra broke down. How could he do this? They were in love all along, and just the day before he asked for a divorce, he hugged my mom before leaving the house. She buried her face in her hands and cried, crying for her father's betrayal and the collapse of her family. But her tears stirred no sympathy in me. Alex, do you hate me that much? My hand tightened on the bench. A thorn pricked my finger, making me flinch. And with that pain, memories of everything came flooding back. At first, I was heartbroken. Hearing that you had such a close male friend, it crushed me. When he confessed to you and you didn't respond, I was confused. At least you hadn't betrayed me, right? But you didn't cut him off. You kept doing things that made me suffer. And the night you agreed to meet him, that was when I felt strangely relieved. People say the last person to see the truth is the one living in it. You didn't reject his confession because you didn't want to. You couldn't. That's why you broke down and cried. Even knowing his feelings, you didn't keep your distance because you couldn't let go. You agreed to drink with him because a part of you wanted it. What stopped you was probably your last bit of conscience. Sandra, when I realized you liked him, I hated you. Sandra looked at me with pain and disbelief, but for the first time, I felt light. But that's in the past, I said calmly. Hatred burns everyone involved. It's pointless now. If you really want to make things right, then agree to the divorce. Let's end this with some dignity. When our conversation ended, Sandra wiped her tears. Do you have time tomorrow? Come with me for the abortion. Just consider it the last time you'll accompany me. Sandra and I divorced on a bright sunny morning. She asked, Can we still be friends? I shook my head. No, we both need to start over. Sandra tried to smile, but tears fell instead. Alex, I'm sorry. I nodded, accepted her apology, and walked away without looking back. Her parents were still creating scenes. Rumors spread that her father had already moved into a new place. Her mother screamed and fought daily, but it didn't change anything. Eventually, she even blamed Sandra, saying that Sandra was the one who set a bad example and influenced her father. Drama after drama. I didn't need to witness it. People told me everything. For a while, I would still run into Sandra, but it happened less as time passed. Her mother's behavior affected her father's reputation and Sandra's job. People whispered. Some pitied, some mocked, some simply watched the show unfold. Even my mother said, Good thing you got out early. Otherwise, we would have been dragged into that mess too. What's wrong with that family? I said nothing. Later, I ran into Makoto. He had a new girlfriend. He apologized, talking about his foolish past and how he had moved on. His expression was relaxed, almost relieved, as if he wanted me to approve so he could feel better. It was ridiculous. Is this really an apology, I asked, or are you just trying to ease your conscience, Mr. Ito? I don't owe you that. You destroyed my marriage and family. That guilt is yours alone. All I needed to do was cut away the rot and move forward. I had my work and my family. A failed marriage hurt, but only for a while. It couldn't ruin my life. Moving on in time was the key. Sandra's perspective. Sandra first met Makoto shortly after his cafe opened. To deliver food quickly, he asked her if he could use the company's internal elevator. She agreed. Later, she asked herself, Would she have agreed if it were someone else? Probably not. Makoto had caught her eye. One glance and she couldn't forget him. The second time they met, Makoto thanked her by buying her a coffee. She even asked her boss to get an extra elevator card for him. He gave her a special cookie he made. Slowly, they got familiar. Her company's afternoon tea orders started going to Makoto's cafe. They exchanged phone numbers. Once, she went hiking and bumped into him again. He enjoyed hiking too. Sandra felt a long-lost ease with him. Makoto said, "Let's hike together from now on." Sandra smiled but didn't agree. She felt it wasn't right. But she eventually agreed after they ran into each other again at a concert Alex was supposed to attend but canceled due to work. Sandra didn't say anything, but she was disappointed. Makoto filled that void. They discovered they shared many interests. Sandra was drawn in. In a casual chat, she mentioned she made desserts for Alex every day. Makoto admired it. "If someone made me desserts every day, I'd love her to death," he joked. Sandra's heart fluttered. "Should I make you some too?" "Really?" "Of course." To her, it seemed harmless, just making an extra portion. Then, on Valentine's Day, Makoto joked, "Being single this long, the smell of love bothers me. Xiao Li got 13 chocolates today. I'm so jealous. Makes me want to fall in love." Without thinking, Sandra said, "Do you have to be in love to receive chocolates? I'll give you some." She didn't think deeply about it. Did she want Makoto to stay single? Maybe. Did she like Makoto? Probably. But Sandra told herself it wasn't love. She knew Makoto's feelings were real. Women can sense these things. But she didn't want him to say it. She couldn't give what he wanted. She had a husband, a stable family. To her, Makoto could only be a friend. But he confessed anyway. This hurt Sandra terribly. She didn't want to face Alex. Alex became a reminder, an obstacle. Sandra didn't respond to Makoto's confession. He acted like it never happened. They continued as before, but there were differences now. His gestures grew more intimate. And Sandra hesitated about the baby. Half a month after Makoto confessed, Sandra found out she was pregnant. She should have been happy. She should have told Alex immediately. But she didn't. She sat in her car for an hour, tore up the medical report, and went to karaoke with Makoto. Sandra was confused, thinking about the baby, Alex, Makoto. She needed time. That night, she lost control. They hugged and kissed. Makoto unbuttoned her clothes, almost going all the way. Sandra pushed him away. No, not now. She needed more time. She was married. She was pregnant. But she didn't realize she had run out of time. Alex had already found out. When she opened the door and saw him standing there, her heart dropped. Sandra didn't think it was serious at first. She convinced herself she didn't cheat, didn't betray. Makoto was just a friend she got along with. Alex could be angry, upset. She would apologize. But divorce? That was too much. Since Alex discovered the truth, Sandra's emotions spiraled, swinging between guilt and irritation. When Alex was sad, she felt guilty. When he insisted on divorce, she felt annoyed. She made a mistake, yes, but was it unforgivable? Why couldn't he forgive her once? She couldn't understand. Until her father requested a divorce. Her father's betrayal shattered the illusions she and her mother had repeated. It wasn't a big deal. He's overreacting. Every family has flaws. Sometimes you have to overlook things. Her father listened quietly that evening. Then he said, "So you think this isn't a big deal?" Her mother shrugged. "Of course not. That's life." And that's when her father said, "I fell in love with someone else. Let's divorce. I'll leave with nothing." He'd been with that girl for 2 years. Listening to her father talk about that girl, Sandra felt slapped, humiliated, exposed. Her father and that girl, she and Makoto, the similarity pierced her. Then her mother collapsed. Alex's two questions echoed in her mind. If your father didn't mention divorce but had a close female friend, would you empathize with him or feel sorry for your mom? And that relationship didn't start yesterday, so why ask for divorce now? Sandra finally understood. You don't feel the pain until the knife is in your own flesh. What made her finally decide on divorce was her mother's hysterical scream, "You're just like your dad! Same excuses! Disgusting!" And Alex's words, "Can you stop disgusting me? At least your dad admitted he fell for someone else. You don't even dare admit it. Sandra, you're worse than him." Sandra shook violently, crying hard. No, it's not like that. But deep down, she knew. Did she hate her father? Yes. Was she ashamed of him? Yes. Did she avoid talking to him? Yes. And then it hit her. Alex must hate her the same way. Sandra was terrified. And from that moment, she finally began to regret.